in YA, all these Crips was a monolith. They was unified. They was, they was the powers that be on these yards. The Mexicans started following suits with their little gangs, the Forencias, the 18. Basically, we didn't call them Southerners, but that was like the beginning of Southerners, you know what I mean? So they was sticking pretty much together instead of fighting each other like they used to be. Like Crips and Bloods fight each other, and Mexicans did the same exact shit with each other. Their gangs was fighting each other pretty much like we were doing. When we got to YA, they all of a sudden they seen the powers that be out there, and they started, grouping together. So that was my first hint of Mexicans and Southernism. But when I got to prison, it was a whole different level. I got to prison in 1983, San Quentin.
For the dime moves and the lokes, for the 6-4s on spokes, for the OGs that did a dime, came back around on parole, for the homegirls with the scrap game, little homies that gang bang, from Pelican Bay to YA, rearrange your mind frame. Yeah, I know what you've been through, shit you had to go tend to. Your mama gave birth on the turf.
I was the founder. I created Conan Pocket in my mother's garage.
I had a lot of, lifting weights, and I was on swole. They start calling me Big Miz.
Kev Mac videos, you know. Show, for sure. Kev Mac video, open your soul.
This is only the beginning.
And I've never been to prison. I've been to YAs and I've been to camps and juvenile halls. All these characters that was on this yard representing these organizations and the ME, the Northern Familiar. That's the rulers on the yard. And they wasn't even Southerners then. They was Emmys to me. They were Emmys. They were Northern Familiar. And the Crips were CCOs. And, of course, the Black Guerrilla Family, the Vanguards. All those traditional gangs was there when I got there. So it wasn't too much Southerners. It was the Emmy. That's what we call it. The Emmy broke up, and then it became the Southerners, But that's my, Southerners really came about probably, with the advent of these new prisons like Pelican Bay and Corcoran and all these type of prisons. The architecture of those prisons were designed to break these prison gangs up, and that's exactly what they did. So.
Okay, let's go back. I should have asked earlier, when did Raymond Avenue come out?
1973.
Okay.
Summer 1973, Raymond Avenue was formed and brought into existence at West Athens Elementary School in 1973.
So when you first went to juvenile hall, you was a baby Crip?
I was a baby West Side Crip when I first got there. Yes, I was.
When you go back and you're from Raymond, how has things changed?
Well, there's a little bit of Crip is always been an operational organization with each one teach one. We kept each other tough. So it was a little contention with other Crips, that didn't know the name, that didn't know, what we was about. And at some point, you got into it with homeboys that disrespected because you was new on the scene per se. But they hurry up. I mean, it wasn't long before they got the message of seriousness coming from me about what I was representing and how I was representing.
What year did you catch your case?
What case? I called many of them.
When you went to prison, I'm sorry.
Oh, my case was called in January 1982.
Okay, and you end up getting how much time for that case?
Life without.
Any number in front of the life?
No, life without. Life without the possibility of parole. Went into prison. That sentence was commuted or overturned to 31 to life in 1986.
All right, you get to prison. So you caught the case in 82. What year did you get to prison?
1983.
Okay, 83. Was CCO up and running when you got there?
Yes, sir. CCO was the power was that big when I got there.
Was Blue Notes out yet?
Not at all.
If you could speak to this, tell me what was the difference between Blue Notes and CCO? Why was there a rift?
The difference, first of all, was ideological per se, man. It was a rift because there were certain Crips who believed in traditional Cripping, and taking Crips ourselves to where Crip needed to be. And then, it was the brain trust of those individuals that thought that CCO was a revolutionary operation, was a puppet, was basically a puppet regime of the BGF, whether that being true or not. This is the propaganda that's being dispersed to me at the time, and that's being dispersed by big homies, homies I respect. So them being revolutionaries per se, or freedom fighters, or somebody that's, with this political overthrow the government routine, and us being somebody who wanted to take us to where we wanted to go on our own, it was a conflict. So we was always of the mind that if you're going to be with that revolutionary thing, then you need to do the same thing like somebody like Bunchy Carter did with the Slausons. He didn't join the Black Panther Party and say, this is Slauson Panthers or some shit like that. He took his whole hood, his whole operation, he made them Black Panthers. Black Panthers, now we know what y'all doing. They took Crip and kept Crip, the name, because at this point in time, San Quentin and Folsom was being fed with these, baked in, these soldiers had already a baked in disregard for government and anything that moved against blacks. It was baked in, but they were still Crips. We were still on our way to being who we wanted to be. They tried to co-opt the name Crip in prison. We felt like us that was Blue Notes felt like that wasn't going to work when you got to the streets. These dudes, when I got there, some of these CCO guys, they had been in prison 5, 6, 7 years before I got there. Crip on the street was evolving. They was moving fast. I knew what they were doing when I got to the yard. These dudes on the yard with this revolutionary thing, I'm trying to speak to them about, y'all don't have no idea how Crips is moving in LA, or for that matter, all around California, Southern California. And what y'all doing is not going to work when you get to the street. You can't make them out of a revolutionary gang in prison and then expect to go back in the hood where they grinding and fighting and trying to survive. And here y'all come, with that subterfuge. It's not going to work, and it didn't work. So the Blue Notes was just basically, man, honoring traditional Cripping, man. And we didn't want to disrespect nothing black. We against the powers that be, same as any revolutionary out there. You didn't have to train us though, like you go get a regular brother, educate him, make him out of a soldier, make him do Crips. That stuff was baked in. So that's why they were so valuable to this revolutionary theory. When Crips came to the yard, you didn't have to do all that. The Crips was ready to go, period. We eventually became the ruling classes on this yard, and we didn't have to do all that. We trained, we took care of our bodies, we tried to, educate ourselves and stuff, and we respected whatever a real organization was doing as long as they respected us. But we wasn't, Crips are not, by no stretch of the imagination, revolutionary guerrillas out to overthrow the government at this point. What they gonna be in the future, that's anybody's guess. But you got to let the Crips grow up and be who they gonna be.
You mentioned that when you got to the pen, it was guys. I believe you said CCO, but there were black guys that had already been locked up 4 or 5 years.
Right.
Okay. Then we know Raymond went to prison in the early 70s, and some of his comrades had went early 70s. So would you consider yourself that second wave of Crips to hit the penitentiary?
No doubt about it. I'm second generation Crip, period. And I was a second generation that hit them yards. And what came behind me it was a whole bunch of, the second generation is what inundated the yards. Because the first generation that came through with, of course, rumors is, I never talked to Raymond personally about it, but that the BGS, had some issues with what he was doing out here. And he stayed true to this blue, Heard he had a little friction with him. And basically, the first generation that was coming in behind him, the homies, some of the homies, down homies, and I ain't gonna say no names, but the first generation going into prisons, they were turned into vanguards, black coats, BGS, period. It was second generation that came through there that kept that Crip and Crip. You see what I'm saying? Against all that. And yeah, we went toe to toe with all of those above individuals. Now the black coats was Bloods and Crips, from what I understand. They were eliminated. They were gone when I got to prison, but I got a homeboy that was a black coat, so I know a little about it. And he was getting at me when he was in Tracy and I was on the street and talking about he was a sergeant in the black coat. I told him, don't never talk to me again. What the fuck is a black coat?
Wouldn't that be the same for the vanguards, having Bloods and Crips?
Well, all of them. Just so the Crips is in the BGFs and the vanguards and the black coats. You know what I mean? It's all of those prison. Those are prison organizations. Crips is a street gang or a street organization.
Had you met Tookie when you was on the streets?
Many a times.
Was y'all cool?
I was a little homie. Of course we were cool.
Yeah, I mean, like tight, or did y'all?
No, Tookie. Look, Took was 6 years older than I, so I remember Took had the little Lincoln Continental, suicide door on it. Took was my homie. He was a good homie, man. You know what I'm saying? And as far as I was concerned, I was a little homie to him, and. It's nothing exceptional to talk about. Took used to come get me at the park and tell me to be, at the workshop or at the Player's Choice, on Western on such and such a day, or to come to a Crip meeting at Sportsman. One time I was with Took in Black County, and I know Took he can move like a cat. He was a big dude, but he can move really fast. He was really dexterous, man, and was known for slapping people, knocking them out. Not just seeking you out to knock you, but if you got in his face or you did something that irked him, he will put hands on you. One dude at the gas station when we was there, we was in Compton. Matter of fact, he was living in Compton at the time. And said something to Connie, and jumped out the car, walked around there, and just slapped the dude, knocked him out. He was good for that, But other than that, I rolled down with my generation as far as my cripping on the street, not with the homies that were older, although I knew them and they knew the work I was putting in. But as far as putting in work, no, that would be with my generation.
When you get to prison, do you and Tookie communicate?
Of course, yeah, all the time. Yes, sir.
What year does Blue Note form?
Blue Note formed in 1983.
Okay, so
1983.
Basically same time CCO or right after CCO?
CCO, I can't speak to when they formed. I know they were there when I got there, and I understand that they were, it was Hoover Joe and Pretty Tony's car originally, but both of them were gone. I know them both, but they were gone when I got to San Quentin. But there was West Coast Crip car, and that was the car that they formulated in San Quentin. That was a Crip car. Then James came through with the Blue Magic car from Consolidated. He got there. When they got there, they was there before I got there. I don't know. I don't have the dates for that. But they were there when I got there. So they combined those two prison, cars and came up with the name Consolidated Crip Organization.
And when we say James, you're talking about Big James Miller, right?
I'm talking about Big James Miller.
So
Rest in peace.
Right.
Mm.
So who influenced you, or what attracted you to Blue Nose?
Well, I was attracted to CCO when I got there.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Let me tell you a little background about it. First of all, the one Crip took, I love him, Mac, Raymond, but the one Crip, I tell you, my Crippin' after was Odie, from Block, West Side, original West Side Crip. He was always of the mind that Crips was an organization. And I'm going to tell you a story one time. I struck up right around Washington High School in Normandy. I was a baby West Side Crip at the time. And I was one of the first ones to use Crip gang. We used to put Crip, or we put our little initials. I struck up one time, Crip gang, and I was still, as a matter of fact, I was still at Henry Clay. And I struck up over there by Washington, Sparks, West Side Crip gang. And Odie come to get me, he had a 6'6" Chevy at the time. He come to get me from Henry Clay and tell me, man, little nigga, we not no Crip gang. Nigga, you writing this Crip gang shit on the wall. We a Crip organization. I wasn't gonna talk back to the big homie because I respected him and loved him. But that right there kind of like stuck in my mind. Although I didn't understand it at the time because I kept writing Crip gang, but kept avoiding him after he gave me that little speech. But anyway, I get to prison in '83. I see these Crips running around the yard, catering, exercising. I'm fish. I can see this from my east side block room. I can see them. Everybody shooting me kites. 'Cause I know all these dudes from the streets, from YA. I know them all. And they've been to prison 4 or 5 years, so I'm getting kites. I'm asking them, y'all organized, y'all straight, y'all doing the damn thing. This is the shit Odie was talking about. So I liked what I saw. And I was, I wanted to know more about it. It wasn't like, so I'm gonna tell you, let me go back. At the Centinela Crip meeting, Raymond did speak on the homies. Y'all homies is going to prison. Basically, fuck the BGF. They gonna try and make you put your blue rag down. Fuck them. That's at the Ricky Silas Crip meeting, and that stuck in my head also. So when I got there, I seen the Crips on the yard doing their thing, soldiering. That was attractive to me. That was what I wanted. That was what Odie was talking about. Went out there on the yard with him. Down for whatever. Matter of fact, they taught me a whole lot about prison, making knives, we call it military science. Got me to start reading this revolutionary, doctrine and studying, Black history and all that was good stuff. So I'm out there on the yard, East Block with the CCO, no problem. And then Trickle, Avalon Don, Big Frog, who was a general, he was a Blue Magic, but he didn't like the consolidation. He was one that got me, took him, was shooting me kites. And then my two homies, my two comrades, Evil and Tretch, they were there. And they were well read, and they were right there with Took, so they all started getting at me, because I'm on the yard with these CCOs, and They telling me, man, don't go for this, don't go for that. And I'm like, I'm like torn. You see what I'm saying? I'm like, wait a minute. Hold it. These are the homies. So the one thing that got me though, right when they getting at me like this, I ain't made these choices or these decisions to step back from these CCOs. I ain't a CCO though. At this time, I'm not a CCO. But my reputation is so well known that by the Crips, the CCOs, they probably would never have gave me no paperwork to, put in some work for them. Period. All they had to do was ask me, But I was getting these conflicting information, and then Bawana from Hoover, he walked up on me, and this would turn me really well. That ain't the real thing, but this would really got me to looking the other way from it. He had a red rag, and of course, my belief system and the things I've been through. He was trying to give me a lesson about the blue rag didn't mean nothing no more. The red rag, you can wear this and do that. I was like, with all due respect, I'm not in here to gangbang, nothing, but I'm not about to turn my back on, what I done did on my whole life, who I know in this cripping. And that little episode really turned the tide for me. So I had to, examine what was going on and look at it in a deeper perspective. And then the homie Tookie, Evil, Tretch, and like I said, the Avalon Don, Big Frog, all of them was bombarding me with information and things about why I shouldn't be fucking with these CCO guys. And the last little piece of that is, I think Took or either the Frog or somebody sent me a CCO constitution. But it wasn't a CCO. It wasn't none of them that sent it to me. I think it was Tookie, or it was Frog from X-Ray Gangster. But somebody, or Avalon, somebody gave me one. And they gave me a BGF constitution. They gave me both of them. And that was it for me. That was, when I seen that, I was like, nah.
They were just alike?
They was identical. It wasn't no just alike. They were, the stuff they gave me was identical, except for BGF was on one, and CCO, the 3 letters CCO was on the other.